In January of 2011, a trapper working a line north of Albany, New York, pulled a canid from one of his sets and stopped. The animal weighed 52 pounds. Its skull was broad across the zygomatic arch, in a way a coyote's skull is not. He filed a report with the Regional Wildlife Office and described what he had seen. The file was logged. No agency published a finding. The report was closed. In April of 2007, a coyote walked through the front door of a sandwich shop in downtown Chicago during the lunch rush, crossed the room, and climbed into an open drink cooler. It lay down among the bottles and stayed there. Staff called for help. The animal waited, watching the room from 4 feet away. The story made the evening news as a curiosity, a lost animal, a funny clip. It was stranger than anything the broadcast suggested. It would matter less if the Chicago animal were a single aberration. It is one of millions. Coyotes now live inside the boundaries of nearly every major American city. Estimates place up to 2,000 of them in metropolitan Chicago alone. A breeding pair has been documented in Central Park, Manhattan, moving within earshot of midtown traffic. They hunt the canyon corridors of Los Angeles after dark, move through the greenways of Seattle and Atlanta, den in the brush line behind suburban strip malls from coast to coast. And simultaneously, in the rural Northeast, hunters and trappers began filing reports of canids running 40-50 pounds, with broad jaws, hunting deer in coordinated pairs. Two separate patterns, the urban infiltration and the rural size anomaly, were pointing at the same animal. The animal people kept calling a coyote had changed, and the change had been accumulating for decades before anyone put a name to it. The coyote of the American West is a slight animal. It runs 20 to 25 pounds on average. It belongs to open grassland and desert scrub. Its skull is narrow, its legs long for its body, its prey small. Rabbits, rodents, the occasional fawn. The animal showing up in northeastern forests and city parks is not that animal. Adult eastern coyotes in Connecticut run 30 to 50 pounds and measure 48 to 60 inches from nose to tail. In Maine, adults average 30 to 35 pounds, already 10 pounds heavier than their western counterparts. The jaw is broader. Scientists argued for decades over what this animal had become, whether it warranted a new name, whether the wolf fraction was significant enough to matter functionally. The argument was never about whether the animal existed. It was about what it had been built from. The answer was in the genome. A Stony Brook University-led study of 462 eastern coyotes found average ancestry of 64% coyote, 13% gray wolf, 13% eastern wolf, and 10% domestic dog. Not a trace percentage. A quarter of the animal's inheritance comes from wolves, 2 wolf species, and a tenth from domestic dogs. New York State data independently converges on the same architecture. Approximately 65% coyote, 25% wolf, 10% domestic dog. 3 species braided into one functioning animal, walking through the suburbs of the most populated region of the country. A study published in Molecular Ecology in 2016 used admixture mapping to locate exactly where the wolf contribution sits in the northeastern coyote genome. The introgressed regions were enriched specifically for genes affecting body size and skeletal proportions. The wolf DNA was not simply present. It was doing measurable biological work. A separate genomic study of 394 coyotes, published in Ecology and Evolution in December 2018, identified 3 distinct genetic groups and found that hybridization had replenished genomic diversity in the expanding eastern population. The mixing had not diluted the gene pool, it had expanded it. Coyotes were never eastern animals. For thousands of years they belonged to the open deserts and grasslands west of the Mississippi. But in the late 1800s and early 1900s, humans changed the eastern landscape in 2 ways simultaneously. They cleared the great forests for farmland, opening the canopy and fragmenting the woodland. And they exterminated the wolves. shot, trapped, and poisoned out of the entire eastern half of the continent over roughly a century. That combination erased the dominant land predator from the largest forested region in North America and left the ecological position empty. Around 1900, coyotes began pushing eastward into the vacancy. The expansion, documented by Roland and Kays from more than 12,000 historical records spanning 1900 to 2016, was enabled by forest fragmentation and the extirpation of larger predators exactly where they had stood. The expansion funneled around the Great Lakes. On the northern route through Ontario, coyotes pressing east encountered the last remnant populations of eastern wolves, animals that had survived because they lived far enough north to escape extermination campaigns, but that had no other wolves left to breed with. The coyotes were close enough, genetically, that the species boundary was permeable. They interbred. Dog genes joined the line through contact with feral and semi-feral dogs at the edges of human settlement. By the mid to late 1940s, a measurably different animal was reaching the Northeast, and it became widespread there by the 1970s. What makes the eastern coyote effective is what it inherited from each of the three animals it was built from. From the wolf, it gained size and the skeletal architecture to use that size. Pennsylvania identifies the eastern coyote as the largest canine in the state. Adult males there run 45 to 55 pounds, females 35 to 40. The molecular ecology admixture study confirmed that northeastern coyotes are the largest-bodied coyote population anywhere on the continent, and that the genomic regions responsible are specifically those inherited from wolf ancestry. With size came hunting capacity. Eastern coyotes can run down deer, in pairs or small family groups targeting fawns, winter-weakened adults, and the injured. That is a prey category the western coyote functionally cannot access. From the domestic dog, the eastern coyote inherited traits associated with reduced wariness around human settlement, though the precise genomic basis continues to be studied. A 2022 genomic study of 16 coyotes in New York City found one male from Elmhurst, Queens, carrying 46% dog ancestry, a suspected first-generation coyote-dog hybrid. Two offspring in the same study carried roughly 25% dog ancestry. The mixing that began in Ontario a century ago has not stopped. From the coyote itself, the eastern animal kept the raw adaptability that has made the species the most geographically successful canid in North American history. Able to exploit nearly any landscape, eat nearly anything, and adjust behavior faster than most predators can track. The conquest that followed is one of the fastest range expansions ever documented for a large land predator. Roland and Kays, drawing on more than 12,000 historical records spanning 1900 to 2016, documented the animal spreading across the entire landmass of North and Central America. Coyotes now occupy the 48 contiguous states and Alaska. They crossed sea ice to colonize the island of Newfoundland. They pushed the full length of Central America and crossed the Panama Canal. Trail cameras at the edge of the Darien Gap have recorded them on approach to South America, a continent this species has never reached. They accomplished this in roughly a century, during the same period when most other large mammals on Earth were contracting or disappearing. The range in the Northeast is now total. From the farmland of New Jersey to the spruce forests of Maine, there is no county without a resident population. Maine occasionally receives reports of animals exceeding 5 feet in total length, or 50 pounds, and the State Wildlife Department asks the public to report any such animals specifically, because when a report describes something that large, the question of species becomes genuinely complicated, which raises the question of how most people have never knowingly seen one. The answer is not rarity. The eastern coyote is invisible because it looks unremarkable, medium-sized, dog-shaped, moving at the margins of what people pay attention to. Urban eastern coyotes in the densest sections of Chicago move almost entirely at night. navigating rail corridors and overgrown lots, denning in cemeteries and the brush line behind golf courses. They occupy the negative space of the city, the gap between what people build and what they watch. Millions of people share their blocks with this animal without knowing it. The skeptic's objection is not about the evidence. It is about what the evidence means. The term coywolf is informal. Many researchers argue it overstates the wolf fraction and undersells how fundamentally coyote the animal still is. Kays himself has argued the animal is better understood as an eastern coyote, a coyote that absorbed wolf genes, than as something that deserves a new category. The wolf fraction is real, but it is a quarter to a third, not a half. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation notes that unusually large canids in the Northeast are more likely wolves than oversized coyotes. A canid shot in Cherry Valley, Otsego County during New York's December 2021 coyote season was confirmed as a wild gray wolf after morphological, genetic, and stable isotope analyses by the New York State Museum. A 99-pound male taken in Saratoga County in 2001 was also genetically confirmed as a gray wolf. The species boundary in the Northeast is not clean. Conceding all of that, the core genetics remain. The body size, the broader skull, the capacity to take deer. These are measurable, replicated, genomically explained. Whether taxonomists agree on the label is a separate question from whether the thing on the landscape is functionally different from the animal that moved east in 1900. The science does not claim a wolf has returned to the eastern forests. It claims something more specific. A small western desert coyote, pushed east by human pressure, absorbed the genes of two disappearing relatives, the last eastern wolves stranded in the north, and the domestic dogs at the edges of town, and emerged as a functionally different animal. Larger, able to run deer, able to live inside the center of a city, without the behavioral aversion that keeps most large predators out. That animal now occupies the ecological role the gray wolf held before extermination cleared the northeastern forests, and simultaneously fills the expanding urban frontier that no other large predator in North American history has managed. By any name, eastern coyote, coywolf, hybrid canid, it is not the animal that existed before, and it is not the wolf that is gone. It is something assembled in a century, from the available parts, in the space that was left open. The trapper north of Albany in January of 2011 filed his report and went home. The file was logged. The question of what he had pulled from that set was noted and not resolved. The coyote in the Chicago cooler was removed in April of 2007 and released in a forest preserve outside the city. Both animals carry the same answer in their genome: 64% coyote, a quarter wolf, a tenth domestic dog. Three species that humans separated by clearing forests, by shooting wolves, by keeping dogs at the settlement edge, braided back together in the vacancy humans left. The animal is still out there, in the cover at the edge of the parking lot. It was built without anyone's permission. It is still being built.